Alrighty. Hello. We're back with another conversion day of streaming. Hello, everybody. I actually glad to be back. I've got a new job, so it's got my converting schedule, my whatchamacallit, my streaming schedule a little off. Hey there, Tagala. How you doing? So today might end up being a shortish conversion, mostly because my son is out of the house for now, but he's going to be coming back in about 2 or 3-ish hours, so I want to make sure I have the place nice and ready for him by the time he gets back. So the conversion has been doing really well. I want to take a look at that real quick. Let me toss you over to what I say. Is this right? There we go. The conversion's been going really well. We finished up Adventure 1. Let's see. Get a look at this. We finished up Adventure 1. That's fully ready for the most part. Pretty much just send that off. Who am I sending it to? I would love to get it all cleaned up, put it into a nice PDF, and have it just in an easy-to-read format for GMs. But time is a very valuable thing. I don't have a lot of that. And Adventure 2, taking a look here. Well, here's our notes for it. The notes are pretty much finished, and now I've just got to do the fun process of kind of cleaning it all up. The cleanup is taking a while, only because I have limited time to work on things. Again, new job, so I'm learning a bunch of new things and kind of interacting with folks. But it is about halfway done, 2/3 of the way done, actually. I'm right now wrestling with the Wormfall Festival, which you can see starting here, part 3. Ooh, fix that right there. The Wormfall Festival is a mess. Stir crazy. All games on the boards have come to a screeching halt. Oh no. Oh no, all the boards have come to a screeching halt. Yes, I know that Nex has some stuff going on, so in the very least, I know that we share Quest for the Frozen Flame together. That's a shame. I don't know about your other games. I think you're in some Starfinder games, I believe. So I don't know those sides, but I think it's summer. I don't know if people are getting out. I know I'm not. It's just new job, go to it, come back, work on the conversion. But I heard that a lot of folks are just like, we've got people moving. We've got a lot of interesting movement on the server, which has been cool. So I didn't stream last week, mostly because I was gearing up for the new job. So I did a small thing on the YouTube. Where is it? Put it interesting for me. Yeah. I took a look at an independent adventure that got put out, which was, here, I saw it originally on Reddit, but they had a nice, cool Paizo post that got no responses from anybody, including myself, which is a little sad, but it feels kind of weird to comment 2 weeks later. So Pandemonium Sage kind of put out this free, he's starting a 5-part AP in a homebrew world, which is like a recipe for disaster most of the time. But I took a look at it, and it was... Whoa, let's get rid of that so we can see. It was actually pretty cool. Besides looking really nice and slick, it has a lot of very unique and fun ideas. I don't usually go for homebrew worlds because... what's the word? Mark Rosewater, the magic designer, said that you essentially want to have touchstones for players so that they can like draw on prior knowledge before they jump into a game. And for me, Galarian is a fine touchstone. 2 Starfinder, 3 weeks ago, imploded with their changing gears and Nia's... Whoa, dear. Oh my. Reworking into another AP, that is tricky. Yeah, I know that Neo might be... You might have some of the busiest GMs now that I think about it. Neo is incredibly busy. Father of 3 or 2, perhaps. And Moon, I think, well, yeah, Moon's been doing a homebrew thing for a while. And that's been impressive that he's just sat down and chugged through on making his own world. Speaking of. So, I come to think of it, I don't know that, like, every GM, let me take a look at the list we've got real fast. Every GM is, like, more busy than the last one, which is very interesting. Which I wonder what type of people gravitate towards being GMs. Because it's never somebody with, like, a bunch of time on their hands. Even when I was running games in high school. Yeah, Marzul is another one who is, like, he's a father, he recently got a new job, too. I try and keep tabs. That sounds dark. I try and, have that connection with everybody on the server, and it was very easy back when it was 6 people. Now that's 50. Speaking of, you ever read the book? What is it? What book is it? Tipping. It's either Tipping Point or Blink. Oh no, I've forgotten the name of the. He's an economist, I think, or a data analyst. Oh my God, hold on, I have to check this real fast. This is going to drive me crazy. No, Malcolm Gladwell. Yes, who says that this is it's almost certainly Tipping Point now that I think about it. Malcolm Gladwell, who says that essentially, socially, we have like a limit of 50 people that we can like kind of keep in one like mental bubble, so to speak. And so if you're like running a company, I hate the idea that everything gets put into like company terms. But if you're running a company, you would essentially break departments down into groups of 50 so that everyone becomes a group of 50. And for the past several months, we've kind of been floating around the 30, 40, 50 members on the server kind of number. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go further than that. I really like knowing everybody. Even though every so often a name crops up, I'm like, no idea who this person is. It's a very interesting book. Interesting books. Malcolm Gladwell does some cool stuff. So, anyway, all that aside, I'd quickly done like a review of the first adventure of this adventure path, and it's cool. It has a lot of good ideas. That said, it's very obvious that the author is more familiar with D&D 5e, and there are things like, this encounter might be a little bit trickier, or like this last encounter of the first intro mission is very interesting. Lots of environmental things to sort of spice up combat when Pathfinder 2e's combat tends to bake a lot of that spice up combat into character stuff. That said, I haven't played that, so maybe it's very interesting. I don't know. And lots of I thought this was interesting, like talking about specifically what certain people sell. Very interesting. So if you are, I'm going to toss this just into the chat just in case, because I think it's cool. I want to give people doing stuff out there a shout out. But check out this guy's AP, and hopefully he does more stuff. It's really cool. All right, so that's what I've been up to. Get rid of that. Up to a whopping 33 subscribers. Woo! All right. That was me promoting myself. Oh boy. So, let's see. Today, let's take a look. What the first thing we're doing is talking about where we left off with the conversion, which is to say, the conclusion of Adventure 2. So the players at this point, bunches of things have happened, but essentially the players have to go back to their employer, Lavinia Vanderborn. She's under attack by a bunch of bullywugs, or in Pathfinder 2nd Edition terms, boggards. And they go in, they save her, and this kind of shows the weirdness of 3.5 APs, where it just kind of goes, and then they end the adventure, and they kind of go, great, you saved the day. They may not realize it, they discovered some stuff, but really, the players, there's no direct go to the next adventure sort of feeling. You still have this mercenary feeling for your characters. So, this is the one thing I do really love, and it's going to be great for 2nd edition. Let the players enjoy their time off. Craft magic items, shop for new gear, explore Sasserine. This is a very 3.5 idea. Or even go on adventures beyond the city walls in the surrounding regions. I've definitely run like side adventures in APs, but very rarely do you see in an AP where it's just like, also, toss in some other stuff that you want to make, which is very much encouraged to do, like you'll see in APs, but it's never like explicitly written there, like, It could be that they were also kind of advertising for their sister magazine, Dragon Magazine. So several possible adventure hooks are presented in issue 349. Smart move, Paizo. But looking at them, they feel like weird for the level. Okay, so that said, our adventure ends and our story could effectively end. It says right here, Vanthus never returns to Sasserine as the day goes on. Lavinia's need to see her brother face his crimes goes from a burning obsession to a quiet, brooding anger. The end. There is no hook for the next. Really. The only hook being, wow, that was really weird. We had to fight a bunch of monsters in a pirate cove. So, it just leaves off with, by the time the itch for adventure strikes the players again, Lavinia is ready for them. So essentially, Adventure 3 picks up with, you guys want some more adventure? Well, I've got it. I'm the one that's going to propel the story forward. And that's fine. Let's take a look real fast at the artwork for the first one, because I like this. This is our introduction to what the 3rd adventure is going to be. It's called the Sea Wyvern's Wrath? Sea Wyvern's Wake. Sea Wyverns? Wyvern. I now like Wyvern better. This is the ship that the players can get in the 2nd adventure, and then it's pretty much mandatory that they have it by the 3rd. We're going to talk about that. But for people who are new to the stream, or for people watching on YouTube and decided that, I don't know, stream number 10 is the time... 10? I've done 10 of these. My God. Is the time to come on? I have prepared something, as I like to do. So, let me hop over to my Photoshop. You know, the way that everybody explains things. Photoshop. Alright. So, our story so far, a lot of the extraneous bits are going to get cut away here as I kind of just talk about the story. We're going to ignore that we had like a love triangle with Vanthus. We're going to ignore sort of the Thieves Guild that was operating in Sasserine, because they're not super important to the story anymore. What we do have is Lavinia has hired the players to collect, to discover, to find, and to potentially murder her brother and her family holdings. Okay, it started off that way very easily. Hi, I'm Lavinia Vanderboren. My parents have died in a recent boat explosion, as nobles tend to do. My brother's missing. These two things clearly are not related. Also, all my money's missing. Could you just go get my money, get my boat, and if you see my brother, that'd be great. Oh my God, my brother blew up my family and then joined a bunch of thieves? Okay. Could you go kill my brother? Well, she does say, bring him back. Actually, she does say at a certain point, he's beyond redemption after he killed a smuggler. So she's like, look, if you gotta kill him, you gotta kill him. Interestingly, as of yet, starting the 3rd adventure, we still haven't met Vanthus officially. We get one little scene with him going like, stay away from my sisters, while he's in an unreachable position. And then that's it. So Vanthus, who is destined to be an ongoing antagonist, hasn't really made his face... He hasn't really shown his face so much as made his presence known. So, during this time, during these first 2 adventures, they meet 2 important NPCs. At least for the 3rd adventure. Okay, they meet Captain Harless Javel, who is a pirate working for the Scarlet Brotherhood. Now, I think on a previous stream I misspoke. I said that she was a part of the Scarlet Brotherhood. I think in like Adventure 9 or 10, it reveals that she was hired by the Scarlet Brotherhood to do some transporting and smuggling. So, small mistake there. She's not an ally of the Scarlet Brotherhood so much as she is like a patsy for them. And then Rowan Kalani, who ran the Thieves Guild in Adventure 1. Now, the players beat up Rowan. It's presumed that she has escaped. We converted over some special, very cheating moves for her to escape, which is essentially what she had in the original adventure. Though looking back, I could probably just make a potion that does the same thing, much like the first one had. And she makes her presence known a little bit in the second adventure after her family sends assassins to go kill the players for their role in stopping their Thieves Guild. Okay, so, importantly, Captain Harless Javel gives us something we'll need for the third adventure. She gives us a boat! She gives us the Sea Wyvern, which is what the adventure is named after. So, not having that, it's not super important. Just get another boat. But it's kind of destined to become a part of the adventure path, much like any other character, or like a Starfinder adventure like Dead Suns, where you would get the... Oh my god, I can only think of the name from the Glass Cannon podcast, which I've forgotten the name. Midnight, or Sunrise, something Sunrise. But where you get a ship that kind of becomes the secondary character. The boat sort of fulfills that role here in The Savage Tide. And Rowan Kalani gives us, for this adventure, very importantly, an enemy. That's right. Rowan Kalani, presumed to have escaped, makes her return in the third adventure to exact her revenge on the players. So that's kind of fun, very interesting. There is another thing that the players find, though, and this is in Adventure 1. It's entirely glossed over, and this AP does that a lot, where they introduce an idea, and they don't give enough information to make it feel like a very important thing. Oh, you go to this pirate cove and there's some monsters there. Isn't that weird? We're not going to elaborate on that for a few adventures. Oh, okay. In Adventure 1, they find a journal from Lavinia's parents. And we're not going to elaborate on that until now. And it's interesting because it gives it a sense of strange continuity in a very realistic way, where Lavinia the entire time is in the background reading this journal, trying to kind of piece it together. So if I'm a GM running this, it's a very interesting, foreshadowing that you might have her meet her and she's looking at the journal again and comparing notes, and that's very interesting. Oh, yes, I need you to do this, this, this. So they find the Vanderborn journal. Now, this is where stuff gets very interesting, and for anybody who's an old hat, who's been playing Pathfinder or D&D for a long time, especially D&D. I actually realized I haven't checked chat in a long time. Okay, good. Okay. If you've been playing D&D for a while, what you will hear next should be a little like, oh my god, that's a shock. Inside the journal is a map to the Isle of Dread, which is incredibly aptly named and got a full makeover, full rework in a way at this time from Paizo, specifically Paizo. This was not, Wizards of the Coast coming down and designers from there saying we're gonna do Isle of Dread again, but right. This was I believe Eric Mona. I can double check that, but the Isle of Dread was getting a facelift. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. So let me get out of this. Boop, 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 da 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 da. I know there's like hotkeys. I can do all this stuff much more easily. All right, here we go. So, what is the Isle of Dread? For anybody that is younger than, let's see, 40, maybe you haven't heard of the adventure Isle of Dread, or importantly, why it was made, or why it's at all important to like role-playing history. So let's sort of talk about that. The adventure, we will get to converting the Sea Wyvern's Wake. But I want to talk about what's going to be like a huge focal point for the midsection of the AP. So let's take a look at, let's see here. No, I don't want that. Oh, here we go. All right. Come on now. There we are. Zoom out a little. All right. So, way back when D&D was created as a game. And the goal of D&D was progressing through dungeon levels, collecting gold, that gold giving you treasure. And there was sort of self-contained stories, but they were more of a rarity. Like the idea of a monster in a room guarding treasure did not need to be justified. It sort of was just like, yeah, the monsters guard treasure, because that's what monsters do in the dungeons. Admittedly, the idea comes from the Chainmail game that was a war game, and this was to open the gates so that the invading army could get... Okay, long story. Long story short, we know eventually Dungeons & Dragons becomes what it is. Now, the issue became, well, here's an incredibly versatile rule set, but how do you kind of adapt these ideas that are sort of set into a pattern? Gather the party, enter the dungeon, slay what's within, take the treasure, get out. How do we adapt that into something not that? So the expert rule set was made, which is to say, telling how the advanced player's guide, in a way, how to tell a story outside of those confines. And this is the 1983 version? Yeah. So originally this was made by Tom Moldvay. I believe Tom is the real architect of this, I believe. David Cook was... I believe this is Tom's idea and David Cook helped with the writing. Not 100% sure. So they say, okay, well, what if a big open world exploration? But the idea of a world populated by monsters didn't exist quite yet. Like, the idea that you would walk around outside like a video game and there's a random encounter of monsters felt a little, maybe a little, stretches the imagination a little too much. I was like, that doesn't, I feel like that's a bit of a leap. So instead, they made this island of horrible monsters so that you would be traveling around, you'd have these random encounters, you'd have these points of interest, and they essentially made the one of, if not the first, hex crawl for D&D. I will double check that, but it's pretty big. It's a wilderness adventure. Now, taking a look, there's a few things I want to see here I think are very interesting. First, I imagine the 1981 edition is a little less beautiful. This is very much put together nicely. This came along with the Expert box set. So if you got the Expert box set, you got this too, as a way to sort of show you and demonstrate what these sorts of adventures should look like. Quick note, I want to say here, it's got it here on the front, for character levels 3 to 7, which coincidentally is about the levels that we will be arriving at the Isle of Dread in Savage Tide. So very internally consistent. Nicely done to Paizo there. So what we've got, blah, blah, blah. Here's our sort of adventure hooks. Setting sail to the island. Very dangerous. This is what we're going to be getting into. But we're going to see a few familiar names that might be super familiar to D&D players and even Paizo players, but got their start here. We do have a Ragadessa, which we already saw in Adventures 1 and 2, or maybe just 1. Just saw the Ragadessa in Adventure 1. Perhaps a little hint of what's to come. And we will see things like Phanatons, which got their start here, and we got to see Adventure 2. And we can see, well, we'll get a few staples of D&D. Kopru make their start here. These are I'm going to say it wrong. Rakatas? Wait, let me look this up. Where is it? Rakastas, I believe. Yes, here we go. Rakastas, which are kind of the cat-like, saber-tooth cat-like people. Maybe not even saber-tooth. They became a fixture. And I'm not sure if they got their start here with the... There is a 1981, this was written. When you think of cultural sensitivity in 1981, we may not be firing on all four cylinders there. There were... I believe the back of this opens up with meet savage cannibals on the Isle of Dread. And Paizo came along and they gave at least some justification for why these people had existed. But it was a little, when I think it's a tricky idea to say, like, in 2023, we're going to take this idea and sort of update it without openly addressing, like, native people that are cannibals and savages maybe might not be the best route to go. So we'll see that. And I'm not certain if we get the start here. I gotta find it. Because this was not originally set in Greyhawk. This was just set in, like, your world, whatever you'd like. Here we go. Tribesmen, spears, blah, 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 blah. I don't think they say it outright. Or that it didn't exist yet. So these become the Ullman people in Greyhawk. And the Ullman are sort of the Aztec, Aztec, Toltec, Mayan sort of conglomeration of South American pre-colonial tribes. That's the role they exist in, that they take up in Oerth, in Greyhawk. They do not know. So this is not any. They don't openly state it here. So, but we get something very strange. A little note that it feels like someone at Paizo decided to spin out, and the idea got crazier and crazier. So we have the Chamber of the Great One here. This is in 1981. Essentially, there is a giant oyster with a massive black pearl inside. Now, that could be coincidental, because if you remember, the shadow pearls are what kick off this entire Savage Tide adventure path. And if you remember from what we talked about on one of the streams, it was a shadow pearl that erupted on the island that started the first Savage Tide and turned the Isle of Dread into the Isle of Dread, that made everyone into savage creatures, that gave birth to these monsters. So we find a giant black pearl in their place of worship within this, as we know now, Ullman Temple. This did not, the Isle of Dread as a module didn't have a real storyline. It was just explore, take treasures, get out. It's essentially a exploration dungeon. Expert rules were still kind of being forged in a way. So this is interesting. Now, again, could be a coincidence. Blah, 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 blah. Bunches of stuff. We do get another staple of D&D. Comes back the Arania. I've never known how to pronounce it. Actually, I know how to pronounce it. It's got it right here. Arania. Oh, I had it right. Arania. Okay? Arania. I love these old ones. These old books had the pronunciation guides. Kopru, which if you don't know Kopru, you will. They are awesome. They are aquatic humanoids that have the ability to control people's brains. a little like Algothu or the Aboleths. But anyway, yeah, here they are. Here's the Copro. And again, we have this kind of imagery where we're like, oh, I don't know if we should go with savage, dark-skinned people that are cannibals living on an island. This might be feeding into something. Okay. So that's 1983, Island of Dread, Isle of Dread. This is what sparked so many campaigns. People have so many memories. It's right up there with, Curse of Strahd, or sorry, Raven. Was it the original was called Curse of Strahd, or is the new one called Curse of Strahd? Anyway, it's up there with these classic, Tomb of Horrors. When you talk about old D&D, Isle of Dread should come up, at least in passing. So when suddenly let's zoom out a little here. In 2004, Paizo. Oh, I wish I did. I probably have a better copy of this somewhere, not in black and white. 2004, in the middle of their Shackled City adventure path, Paizo decides we're just gonna write about the Isle of Dread. We're gonna update some of the adventures and some of the things, and we're gonna talk about it a little. And they do some very interesting things. First off, they do very much set it in Greyhawk. Okay, this article is a reimagining of the classic setting described in 1981. Module X1 Isle of Dread. X1 standing for Expert Set, of which there were 8. 8? Let me look that up real fast. Of Dread, because oh my god, there were much more than that. 13, 14, 15, 16 modules like Castle Amber, which started the Against the Giants, I believe. Curse of Xanathon, don't know that one that well, I'll be honest. Master of the Desert Nomads, Temple of Death, a great name there, by the way. Quagmire, definitely don't know that one. Werewolves of Kron. Okay, we're getting into some stuff I don't actually know that well. Savage Coast. Red Arrow, Black Ship. Come on, there's got to be. I know there's going to be another one. Saga of the Dark Lord. That's going to stand out as awesome. This is a classic. Boy, even a solo book. Thunderdelve Mountain. Okay, well, Castle Amber stands out to me. All right. What was I saying? Right. Dungeon Magazine. So they say, okay, it placed the legendary Isle of Dread in the default D&D setting, the world of Greyhawk, which was at that time the default before Forgotten Realms sort of just took over in 5e. The default settings, I don't think D&D, AD&D 2nd edition, I don't think they had default settings so much as they had this is where things are, you can put things here. 3rd edition came out, and they were like, Greyhawk. They never explicitly stated it, but all the deities in the core rulebook, or the player's handbook, were the Greyhawk deities, and a lot of the adventurers sort of just accepted that. And I remember Forgotten Realms was just sort of a side thing. You're like, oh yeah, look, check out the Sword Coast. Isn't that novel? Look at that, Red Wizards of Thay. How interesting. And then we'll never explore any other places other than those two, despite Forgotten Realms being massive. So I think Forgotten Realms is the only setting that got so big they put settings within the setting. I think that was Karator as well as oh no, I've forgotten. Anyway. Was Al-Qadim was also, I think, set in the Forgotten Realms world. My goodness. So, anyway. We get a 2004 update. This is now, 23 years after the fact. And they just decide, who wrote this, out of curiosity? Gary Holian. So Gary Holian, who I don't know. Gary Holian. Author of several... Oh, I'm going to be very embarrassed if this is going to be somebody very important. Oh my. Oh my, he's got quite a bit here. Paladins, Greyhawk. This guy, this is a fellow that knew Greyhawk. He was a living Greyhawk guy. Okay. Worked on Demonomicon of Igwilv. Lot of Dragon magazine, a lot of Dungeon magazine stuff. Wow. Okay. So there's somebody that knows Greyhawk, and when they said, we're going to set our stuff in Greyhawk, we're going to go to Gary. Cool. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. We're reimagining Isle of Dread to set it in Greyhawk. Okay. We have a little bit of the stories to tie in a lot of these random encounters, random wandering monsters, small civilizations. We have the Princes of Thanaclan, which are essentially if I got this correct, the Omen people, yes. The princes reach that only by their grace of their deities, so the Omen achieve, sustain their success. Oh, I'm sorry, the Thanaclans were, part of the Omen society and culture. We've got Koprus. Now, here's a quick line that should start getting some people thinking. Koprus worship strange and alien powers, including the fiend known elsewhere as Demogorgon. So, okay, we've got a Demogorgon mention for the Isle of Dread. This is before the Savage Tide has come out. Admittedly, maybe like a year before. So we can imagine that the plotting was there. They're like, all right, let's start sewing this stuff. When humans, in the form of intrepid Omen emigres, how do I pronounce it? This is very French. Emigres. Began arriving to settle the surface of the island, the Koprus took notice. It was following the consecration of the great temple of Thanaclan that the Koprus finally unfolded their vile plot. For 4 decades, sorcerers labored in the submerged layers, cultivating and nurturing the largest black pearl the world had ever seen. Hello, hold on now. We have the Demogorgon worshippers who have made a giant black pearl, like the one we saw in the original adventure. Okay? Birthed from the spawn of a fiendish giant oyster and poisoned with malign and irresistibly charming magic, the pearl became imbued with Demogorgon's power, and its raw beauty was irresistible. That's a shadow pearl. That is exactly what we have been talking about. Finally ready, the Copra placed it where the Omen of Thanaclan would find it and become enraptured with it. The trap had been set. Sure enough, as we know, the Omen people take that prize. Okay, and then we're kind of dealing with some multiple timelines in that this was written in 2004, and it is the prequel to the 1981 adventure. Okay, prequel, I mean, this is not an adventure, but it's giving the history of it. They find it. They consider a trophy sent from the gods. They put it in their temple, exactly as we see. However, it corrupted everything it touched. The gods of the Omen promptly turned their gaze from these islands. So this is somewhat to justify that the Omen people in the original adventure are savage. They are dangerous. Curses effects surface slowly. Soon the calamities cascaded. Storms lashed the archipelago. Crops failed, etc., etc. We know this now to be a shadow pearl, and that its whole entire purpose was to make the world get plunged into this abyssal plague, this chaotic plague. So, terrible. Terrible times. Awful. That then sets the Isle of Dread to become what it is. It's the Isle of Dread because of this Kopru planned shadow pearl led by Demogorgon. Ta-da! We have our setup. Now, from here, we've got the 3.5 sort of things. Here's what our the new random encounters will look like. Here's a quick adventure to go with it. I want to see what level. Mid-level, 6 to 12. So it kind of keeps the same. Boy, I love that 3.5 would just be like, what level is this adventure? I don't know. 6 to 12. Let's see if there is an official, like, what level players should be. Here we go. 4 6-level characters. That's a heck of a scaling. 3.5, you could get away with so much. You'll see some of these maps from the original module, Isle of Dread. Where'd I put it? There we go. Just sort of adjusted for time. I lost it. Here we go. Here's our Tanaroa, and the graveyards. By the way, if you go through and read this little adventure, you can see it makes me smile, it makes me laugh every time because of how the older adventures were written. Like, oh yeah, there's a zombie master that's raising up the dead around here. So if your players are interested in fighting them, just make a dungeon beneath one of these graveyards, and that's where he is. Okay. Thank you for the idea. It's just a one-paragraph zombie master. I just think that's kind of interesting. You can see here the effects of time on this, as now this is sort of what Tanaroa has become. The village of Mora. Hold on now. Am I getting something wrong here? Maybe not. Different clans. All right. Well, I could be wrong. But yeah, then we've got sort of these adventures. Pyramid of Mora. Yeah, this is the same place. Tanaroa. And we just did a little quick adventure. This adventure has nothing to do with the AP, so we can kind of skip over that. But we have our background. Paizo very, very specifically plotted out a way to take an older adventure and tie it into the world of Greyhawk, tie it into the default setting of D&D. So you can sort of see they've already done this a few times, where they're building out the world of Greyhawk, and fleshing it out and giving it a lot of life. And then Wizards of the Coast cut their magazine, cut their contract to the magazine. They very, very graciously allowed that to be extended so that they could finish that out for the adventure path. But looking back, well, that went down the wrong. Looking back, it does feel like a bit of a waste that we had all of these people at Paizo really developing a world for Wizards of the Coast. Not for free. I mean, they did it in a magazine. They did it in a wildly popular adventure using a lot of pre-existing information. Just going to get rid of these. We're going to be looking at these in a little bit. Here's our map of the Isle of Dread. Again, this remains unchanged from the original, which is cool that we can kind of keep this, and we're going to just keep iterating on it through the years. I mean, if we can update this to 2023, then we've had a successful Isle of Dread that has existed for 40 years, which is great. 42 if you're really going by 81. So yeah, I mean, it feels like the folks at Paizo were incredibly passionate about this world and knowing everything that goes into it, knowing the relationships of the demon lords and what plots they had going on with the world, how they could tie that into some of the most iconic adventures and people of D&D's past. And it's very sad. I'm not going to say I don't know really what's going on with D&D 5e right now, and maybe that's really a part of the marketing, and in that, welcome to the new generation of D&D. You don't have to know all of this baggage. You don't have to be who are the four elemental evils. We don't need to know about that. Who's Grast sleeping with? We don't really need to know that. Just enjoy, your home setting, which is incredibly a fantastic way to play a role-playing game. But I am, I guess, from a, role-playing nerd history, a little sad to see that all these great ideas sort of got left on the table. But it's so interesting to see that Paizo absolutely was just like, yeah, we want to have a living, cohesive world, and we're gonna keep on with that, and we're just gonna take it over to Galarian, which I believe was a large part James Jacobs' homebrew setting. So yeah, you can see, depending on how you view your role-playing game settings, I really enjoy that Paizo is so mindful of their world. And there's plenty you could say about like kitchen sink settings, and maybe how they didn't handle the Mwangi Expanse super well early on, and obviously they've made up for it now. Kind of much the same could be said about the Dragon Empires of Tian Sha, and again we're going to see sort of how that's going to get addressed in the new books. But it's also such a big, large world that you cannot do all of these things at once. I mean, even this setup for the Isle of Dread, a very tiny island with no setting, took a lot of time. I mean, this is a large setup for a very good payoff, in my opinion. Okay, so, I forgot to do my one bit. Oh, well, that's fine. My one bit of also our adventure does eventually lead us to killing Demogorgon. Because that's what this all leads, is to killing Demogorgon. Okay. That's our history lesson. And I'm so sorry that it took me 45 minutes. That's not so bad. This is the problem. This is my problem. I think if anyone wants to make content that's easy to consume and is digestible, they should not be long-winded. On the other hand, if you like to stream, being able to talk for hours at a time is a strength. So, YouTube content, easily digestible, I would need an editor for that. And I got nobody that knows how to do that, and I ain't got money to pay for somebody. Alright. That said, we might look at this later. Because this is, like I said, the Dragon magazines, the dungeon magazines, each adventure path came with a Dragon magazine that gave it a little bit more fleshing out. We might look at this later. Instead, what we will do is look at the adventure. Okay? So, first off, we do have our switching sides. As always, the adventure path accounted for if the players decide to be the baddies. It's interesting. So, quick adventure synopsis. I want to go into this because it sets the tone for how we're going to... thank you, Tagala. That makes me feel good. I know that we do have some people on YouTube, and there's a shout out to the YouTube people who have been following along and commenting, who've been really cool. They just kind of put it on the background. They just like to listen to somebody talk about, D&D history. And I don't think I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like a D&D historian, and that certainly ain't me. I'm just a guy that really liked D&D and kind of likes to see Paizo and where it evolved. But, I'm not looking to like change what I do because I like doing this. Anyway, so what our adventure is, it says here on the tin, Sea Voyage. That's how it's described. Sea Voyage, our players start at level 5. They should end up at level 7 by the end, I believe. Now, it says Sea Voyage, but there are very, very specific kind of like breakpoints throughout this that change. Okay? So here's our synopsis. Lavinia recruits the players to aid her in her long journey to south to visit and resupply the colony of Farshore. So, in her parents' journal, Lavinia whips it out and she's going through and she's translating, she's looking at all these notes, and she went, oh my god, my parents, who were seekers, essentially the Pathfinder Society or the Harpers or what have you. I love that every setting has a like good guy faction that are just adventurers. They were adventurers, and they did not discover Isle of Dread, but they had done some adventuring there, and they decided to take a lot of their vast money and establish a colony, which, do they say why? Because it seems like such a bad idea to me. My god, this island is filled with dinosaurs and monsters! But it'd be great here. Like a Starbucks on the corner. That's what we need, is a Starbucks on the corner. Here we go. Varric Vanderborn hit upon the risky and unconventional idea of establishing a colony on the shores of the infamous Isle of Dread. Risky and unconventional is perhaps an understatement. It really does not say why. Maybe I'll look in a little bit later, but there's got to be a reason where you're like, all right, check it out. Who wants to live on the Isle of Dread? Excuse me, why is it called the Isle of Dread? Well, it's very aptly named, let me tell you. It's awful. It is terrible. Start to finish, you're going to hate your life there. And if you don't kill yourself, somebody will. I'm so confused as to why he's like, but we'll go ahead a little further. We will eventually get to Far Shore, which is the Colony Fortress. So they went to go resupply the Colony Fortress, and before they could, Vanthus blew them up. So, now Lavinia's like, oh my god, they're without supplies, they're on the Isle of Dread, and it's my family, my parents' legacy. We gotta go back, we gotta get them. So, the players are put in charge of a ship captured in the previous adventure, the Sea Wyvern. So, the journey takes them from the city of Sassarine to the coast of Amido Jungle. Now, Sassarine. We spent 2 adventures building up Sassarine. We have the one web supplement that Paizo put out is just detailing the city of Sassarine. We have information on the noble families of Sassarine. We have the history of Sassarine. We have all the religious infighting of Sassarine. We are done with Sassarine. We are not going back there. Done. Okay? And this is something that I personally love as a GM. For anybody that plays in a game of mine, you'll note that I kind of take the long view of things. And it doesn't matter if you're in, book 3. Things that took place in book 1 tend to come back. Or these people and places are always still there. And I like expanding and growing them. And, this existed. This adventure existed in a time of teleport being a common spell that everybody sort of had. So Sassarine, even if it doesn't come up in the adventure path again, should absolutely come up at your table still. When you say something like, well, I would like to, we'd like to resupply at Sassarine. Let's teleport back and boom, 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 boom. Meet some people, check in with some folks. We have some connections with the, there are factions in this game, and in 3.5 style, they're very mechanically related factions. We are not likely going to be doing any of that, but it depends. I might get like I might get a free day and just go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to convert all the factions over and all their mechanical benefits and make a whole mini, subsystem for this. Anyway, so it's nice for people to still have a home base. Far Shore will become that, but it's also nice to have NPCs that you can go to, place to touch base. So potentially in this adventure we'll find a way for players to get hold of the teleportation spell, because it's somewhat necessary for 3.5 games. As will plane shift eventually become necessary, or gate spells or rituals or the like. So we are going to get into high-level shenanigans eventually. All right. So, still talking about what happens. They're encountering dangers, and along the way, this is our naval section, okay? Including possible treachery from within. We're going to be having some fun role-playing. I still have some of my best memories of role-playing from this adventure specifically. Quick stop, the infamous ruins of Tamakoin. I'm going to say that's Tamakoin. To do a bit of exploring. This is a quick dungeon crawl. They must run a blockade of Scarlet Brotherhood ships. Naval combat. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that. Meanwhile, the players discover an old enemy, Rowan Kalani, who is stowed away on board and is busy making trouble. More role-playing goodness. Eventually, they hit the open sea and arrive at the centerpiece of the adventure. I have so many memories from this adventure, and they're not great, but it's hard not to remember them fondly for pure nostalgia. They hit the open sea and arrive at the centerpiece, an immense Sargasso Sea in which dozens of ancient ships lie lodged. So essentially, there is this growing seaweed sea, Sargassum. I believe it's Sargassum is the plural, and Sargasso is, I could be incredible. It's been a while since I looked up the word. So they get stuck in a meshed Meshed. I'm just stealing the words that I'm looking at. In the creepy seaweed, and there is a living seaweed monster that the players have to go down and fight. So that is a bit of like a not a hex crawl, but it is. I'm curious to see how we can convert this, so to speak. As in 3.5, it was a drain on your resources as you're like going through this sun-baking seaweed hell that just stretches on for miles and miles, exploring wrecked ships for anything, all while fighting this like unending army of seaweed monsters. So I'm curious about what that's going to look like into the second edition. We'll see if that gets if that ends up looking entirely different. We'll try. So that is where we're going to be starting. Our adventure has several distinct points. We've got naval combat, a dungeon crawl, and we've got this. I'm just going to call it hexploration, even though it's not really hexploration, but just a long exploration. If I recall, this adventure does just say, when you think the players have had enough, spring the final boss on them. But I could be wrong. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Whoa, skipped ahead too much. Yes. Let's see here. Exploring the rank, blah, 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 no. Thunderer is where they find this. Yes. Okay. Eventually, here we go. Eventually, through luck or careful planning, the players should come upon a forest of kelp. Yeah. Which I don't like that as a design. Obviously, that is not great. Yeah, here it is. Essentially, they spend nights fighting off these horrible, seaweed monsters. Ta-da! And again, there's another second edition design where it's like, I can't just keep sending the same monster after them again and again. So what we might do is take these vine horrors and turn it sort of into a template that we can apply to different creatures, or at least make more different creatures. You may see that we have a running theme of taking an idea from the old adventure and iterating on it and just going bigger with it. Oh, we've got savage monsters. Okay, now we have a bunch of different savage monsters. Oh, we have a bunch of thieves. Now we have a bunch of different thieves. So we've got vine horrors, bunches of different vine horrors. Likely what we're going to be doing. I'm not sure how much I want to keep doing that. Because I feel a little guilty. Or it's like it's a very easy way to solve a problem that is more of a style problem in a way. Like, as a GM, I don't want to keep running the same exact encounters for players, especially once they've figured out how to solve them. Because that's what a lot of second edition encounters are. Solving a problem, they're solving the encounter like a puzzle. Alright, so before we get started, I did just drink a full thing of water. I'm going to use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. And then we'll get right into converting. All right, and I'm back. I just realized. So my sister-in-law is going to be coming by, dropping off my son, and I've got a big box of donuts waiting for her. And I have to say, it's the most difficult little thank you gift to give out because they're like, oh, I really want to eat those donuts. It's 11:30 in the morning here. I had 2 donuts for breakfast. Now I'm eyeing up hers like, how many donuts could she possibly need? All right, so let's put these books away. We're not using this convert tab. If you can see it up here, that is all the other stuff. What we are going to do, a clean document. Is there anything so beautiful and terrifying at the same time? So we're going to start with taking a look. Part 1, a modest proposal. Oh, that's a grim name. That's a very grim name, Part 1. Who wrote this one? Who wrote this one? Richard Pett. A very, 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 very talented fellow, I do believe. Make sure. I think I know Richard Pett. Is he also? Yes. Notably one of the most twisted minds in the field of RPG design. Yeah, he did Skinsaw Murders. There it is. I knew the name. He did Council of Thieves as well. Weeby Goblins. Yeah, Richard Pett. Very, 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 very cool guy. So I can't believe it. This guy. All right, give us Weeby Goblins 2, and along with the Sea Wyvern's Wake. Okay. Of course, he opens with Part 1, a modest proposal. If you don't know, look it up. It's a great guide on cooking. Okay. Starts off, give them time to craft. This is essentially what was the previous conclusion. I'm going to say right here. These are notes. If you have not seen the stream before, essentially what I do is I take notes so that I can clean them up later. Okay, so page 18. Let's start. Part 1, a modest proposal. Thank you, Thomas. Proposal. Okay. Page 18. We're going to go on that 3rd column. First paragraph. What we've got right here. Essentially, I want to solidify the downtime time frame. Okay? In 2nd edition, just saying, like, generally, give your players downtime tends to cause more confusion than it's worth, because Strength of Thousands does that, where they just say, and your players will have downtime. But if you don't codify it, a lot of GMs suddenly go like, okay, well, downtime is actually a very important resource, and if you give them a year of downtime, players can very much change the game. And if you don't give them enough, they might be falling behind if you're accounting for it. Admittedly, this is 3.5. Nothing is accounted for. All your players are assumed to be gods walking around at level 1. So we're gonna solidify the time frame. I'm thinking like a month of crafting and earning income and all that good stuff. All right. Current atmosphere, Vanderborn. Yes, this is a lot of. This one is interesting. As a GM, this is exciting for me. She's just finished a funeral for her major domo, Cora Whistlegap, who you get to meet in Adventure 1, dies in Adventure 2. So, as a GM, I'd love to roleplay out that funeral. Very dark of me. But players arrive. So far, no mechanical stuff. This is her saying, oh, hey, by the way, the Isle of Dread? Well, my parents started a colony there, and why don't you come with me? I'm going to go head out. I think there is even a, if your players say no section. These are always so strange. So, now things get weird. Okay? Page 19. We're going to get into 3.5 wonkiness. Gosh. Page 19. What we want to do here, right away. The players may be ill-prepared to manage the logistics of a long sea journey. If you play Kingmaker, you have seen these phrases before. Your players may not want to do the kingdom management. And if you've seen the kingdom management rules, I would not blame your players. I run Kingmaker right now, and I showed the rules to my players, and I said, is there anyone that wants to do this? And they all said, absolutely. And then I said, great, here's what I need to know from you. And then it just went dead silent. So this is on a much smaller scale. Essentially, takes a week to prepare for the voyage. They get to choose crew, passengers, and what kind of goods they could take with them. I don't recall this having a huge impact on the game, though. So we'll see. We might be able to punch this up to make it actually have an impact on the game. So first off, if players want to take part in preparation for the journey, let them take initiative on planning the voyage and outfitting the Sea Wyvern. Listed below is a checklist of things that need to be addressed. Any character who has at least 5 ranks in Profession Sailor automatically knows these steps. Obviously, that's silly. 5 ranks and anything. But change 5 ranks in Profession Sailor, okay, to anybody, let's get my quotes in there, anyone trained in sailing lore or or any other appropriate lore would know the following. Okay, something like that. Okay. Quick notes just for me to remember for when I start cleaning stuff up. So this way, you want to encourage players to be putting some training into that lore, which is going to be good for actually piloting the Sea Wyvern. And I think that when we do go back and design backgrounds for this, we're absolutely going to put in a sailing background. That said, eventually the whole sailing aspect and the piracy aspect that really got heavily advertised at the time is going to fall away. I think you're going to get this adventure and maybe one other, and then you're kind of done with naval stuff, which is pretty good because you don't want to turn this into the Skull and Shackles adventure. You want this to be the Fighting Demogorgon adventure, or at least the Greyhawk going back to the Isle of Dread adventure, because it's not even that. You're not going back to the Isle of Dread so much as it happens. It occurs there, and it's a little wink and a nod to the 1981 adventure. Okay. Otherwise, a DC 15 Profession Sailor check reveals it. Okay. Very silly. You would need to have it. What I'll say this. Change the DC 15 Profession check. Okay. To a society check. Society check. Okay. So that way they'd still like. I think it's very silly that you would tie. Obviously, if we're putting trained in sailing lore into that, it's still an intelligence check. It still has to do with kind of society, maybe nature, but I'm going to say society. Okay, otherwise they'll either need to consult a sailor NPC or run the risk of forgetting something critical. This one is such a strange addition, where it's just like, well, they're either going to need 5 skill points invested into this specific skill, or make this DC that could be kind of difficult if you don't have those in. Or, I don't know, just talk to a guy. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could probably still keep that in. Okay. So, using her mother's journal and extensive charts, Lavinia has already plotted out the course of her expedition. So, this is interesting. Right here, Dragon Magazine 350, their Savage Tiding, tells what Lavinia knows of the journey in detail. Again, Paizo was clever. I forget who was in charge of the magazines at the time. I know he caught some flack for doing this sort of stuff. But much like comic books, where they constantly advertise for other comic books within the comics, Dragon and Dungeon very much often advertised for each other. So I do have that open here. This is the quick guide to the journey. I would 100% recommend getting these. I don't think I need to convert anything here. So it may just be like tossing this sort of information out. If you're going to play this, if you're going to do this as a conversion in 2nd edition, having these as a resource is great. I do want to talk about that. I want to touch on that really briefly, because these are old magazines. I don't expect people to have these magazines anymore. Lord knows it took me a long time of hunting them down on eBay back in college to get all the magazines myself. They are now all... There are digital PDF copies of these to be found. I can help people find them if they're looking for them. I cannot myself put them out there. I can't be like, oh, here's the conversion, and also here's all the magazines. Or I can't be just say, here's the conversion, which is an exact word for word, magazine article just with the updated rule set. So I'm in a tricky position where I'm converting something that maybe people can't get a hold of anymore. But I want people to. So if people are really interested in getting the old magazines, be they the Dungeon magazines where the APs first kind of came out, or the Dragon magazines that accompanied them, send me a message either here on Twitch, or send me a message on Reddit, or send me a message on YouTube, and I'll do my best to try and get them to you and direct you to them. I'm trying to think of ways to not implicate myself in a crime. So, all right. So, I find this interesting that the Savage Tide calls out, look at what Lavinian knows of the journey. And I wouldn't say there's a lot here that makes it super interesting. Here are some background feats. They were feats back then. These were the pre-background things. So you'll see like regional feats. And that'd be kind of fun to convert over into backgrounds at least. So just a little information about the setting. We will talk about it eventually. Essentially, we've got the Omen Empire here. We've got the pirates that have come in. Let me see. The Mist Kingdom, the islands here. Things that we're going to be kind of like popping in and sort of seeing in the adventure. Much more importantly, they say it right here. If you're not using the article, just feel free to drop hints to what they could expect along the way. That's it. That's all there really is. Okay. We'll talk about the passengers later. They are going to be a part of the game, for sure. So nothing to convert really yet. Securing a vessel, Caravel class ship. Oh, I'll just take these quick notes. This is what, page 20? Yeah. Okay. Page 20. Change. Woo. Change prices for ships. Easy. Nice and easy fix there. Easy solution is to get the Sea Wyvern, which the players are directly rewarded in our conversion. They're awarded that if they speak with Captain Javel, influence her at a high enough level. She's like, yeah, take my boat. Or it's sort of like, you could find another boat. They sort of start this adventure with like, do you guys know any boats? Looking at the screen Blue's Clues style, with the Sea Wyvern in the background, waiting for a kid to go, the Sea Wyvern! That's right, the Sea Wyvern! So, it feels a little infantilizing, but we'll see. I don't think that's really going to change much. Sea Wyvern requires a crew of at least 7 to sail. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay, this is where it's going to be interesting. I started doing this on the last stream of making the vehicle rules for the Sea Wyvern. Let's see, do I still... Let's see here. Template tool. Let's log in. Alright, come on now. Boop, Google. That's me. Nobody send me any emails. Okay. And where is the Sea Wyvern? So we started. I did not finish it for certain. Sailing lore, diplomacy, intimidation, or nature. Okay. This says here, in order to make the sea voyage, you're going to need profession sailor checks and knowledge geography, or nature. We can expand this out to include diplomacy and intimidation. And essentially, the players could take the role of captain and pilot. With these very accessible skills, it's quite likely that someone on the party will take the role of captain, which means that Amela Venkali here, the ship's captain, will take the role of first mate, much more likely. Which, as a GM, I like that. I like my players to feel a little bit more empowered. So, talk about piloting changes to the Sea Wyvern. Cool. All right. Yes. If the players insist on replacing crew members or adding new crew or passengers, this is a very strange, like, nope, get them off the ship. A little odd. Here's where it gets tricky. As I remember my players spending a hell of a time on this. Sea Wyverns hold storage lockers. Oh, they have 60 tons of supplies for far shore. 60 tons are left for supplies. So half the hold is food for far shore, half is anything else. Okay? 10 tons is consumed by repair supplies. 10 tons for food. So there's 40 tons. And then another fellow brings along his horse and horse food, which takes up another 10 tons. So essentially the players have 30 tons to play with. What does this mean? Well, if you're my players, that meant doing a lot of math as to figure out like what sort of things they could bring onto the ship, which didn't actually affect things too much. You know, if you then go like, okay, we have 30 tons of extra weapons, armor, food, and all these things. Nitty gritty. It's a little too nitty gritty for me. It then does note the Sea Wyvern is not equipped with any siege weapons if the players wish to add a ballista or catapult. This is where I think things could be quite interesting in terms of weight. So, what I'd like to do is change the tonnage, storage, and I want to say make this more modular and note actual mechanical reasons for why and what, for what and why, for what you can bring and why you would bring it. So, because if you just spend 2 hours sitting around the table thinking of 30 tons of, supplies to bring with you, and you say like, oh, we should bring food. No, you guys already have 10 tons of food. Oh, we'll bring another 10 tons. Okay, great. And none of it comes into play, or none of it makes any real difference in the game, then it's sort of just a waste of time and a waste of design space. So, we'll just move on. We'll just gotta move on from there. All right. Part 2, Life on the Ocean Waves. Cool. Cool. Let me jot that one down. Whoa, hey, whoa. All right. Part 2, Life on the Ocean Waves. And I think I'm really only going to be streaming for just like maybe another 30 minutes or so. Like I said, I gotta get ready for my child to come baby-proof the house again. He's 2. It's not really baby-proofing so much as it is just hiding the knives that I keep lying around, I guess. All right. Meet the players meet the crew and the passengers, get comfortable, blah, 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 blah. 2 ships set out. Okay. The players may wish to return here later in the campaign with spells like Greater Teleport. The adventurers are not scheduled to return to Sasserine. Like I said, Sasserine is done. Okay. So, 2 ships are leaving. The Blue Nixie, which we secured in the first adventure, which was set ablaze at the end of it, so I imagine that got fixed up. It does say that up top. And presumably the Sea Wyvern. As the journey proceeds, don't dwell on daily routines. Yeah. If you've played Skull and Shackles, you've done enough daily routines where it's just like, is this fun to play? I don't know. Players still have downtime. It takes 3 months to reach the Isle of Dread. I hope everybody reads this next part here and has that same sigh that I have. Naval combat. If you Google Naval Combat Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you'll immediately get Pathfinder Infinite selections of people talking about how to make naval combat in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Because, yes, we have it. But no, it's not really well developed. And then here's a bunch of rules for how to do it. If you play Starfinder, and I know Tagala does, you may know that ship-to-ship combat or that spaceship combat is one of the most least liked mechanics in Starfinder. And I don't know that I'm the person to come to when to say like how to make vehicle combat in Pathfinder 2e much more exciting. So I'm going to take a look. I'm stealing directly. What page is this? Page 27. Cool. This is Stormwrack. This was a 3.5 book that essentially was if you want to run a naval campaign. When did this come out? This came out in... It's got to be here somewhere, right? Where is it? August 2005. Okay, so this was... this had just come out, again, towards the end of 3.5. I imagine that a lot of people bought this book for... Or actually, I don't think that Stormwrack sold too well. Because... it's an end of the lifetime. It's an end of its life cycle book with a very specific focus. You'll see that Paizo doesn't do that so much anymore. They're not going to put out a vehicle book. They're not going to put out an influence book. They're not going to put, they might put out like, here are the ideas. If you are interested to expand them yourself, by all means. This by itself as a product does not sell. And I'm sure there are Stormwrack lovers out there, but what they tried to do was make a naval campaign book. So this says it uses... Oops, that's why. This uses the naval combat rules in Stormwrack to do this. And looking at this... my brain hurts from 3.5 already. Going back from Pathfinder 2nd Edition to 1st Edition is a little like I gotta re-grok stuff. Going back to 3.5, it's still a little tricky. Going back to the rules that people didn't like in 3.5 is incredibly painful. So, oh boy. Yeah. Essentially, you had several different parts of the ship that could be attacked and you could attack from. Here's a go. 3 areas an enemy can target: the rigging, the hull, and the ship itself. The ship has a number of sections in its rigging and hull, each with its own hit points, and hardness, and weaknesses, and... oh no! Each time a ship is hulled, the captain must make a sailor check to avoid sinking. So, what we do have is vehicle rules. We obviously want to... we want to stay to the rules of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We're not going to... I don't want to recreate rules for naval combat. If I do, I want them to be simple. I don't want to refer to them a lot. That said, there are plenty of people that have made naval combat guides and rules on Pathfinder Infinite. So what this essentially has is that I believe you spend an action to pilot a ship or a vehicle, and then it can do things. Here's the small problem with that one. Yeah, here we go. Piloting actions. Yeah. All things that you can do, yeah, as the pilot. Everybody else at the table is suddenly going like, well, what do I get to do? So what we may end up doing is essentially breaking up a combat, let's get this out here, into 2 sections, okay? There's the pilot, and then there is the on the ground. Okay? All right, pilot and on the ground. The pilot will be doing all of these very interesting sort of abilities, dealing with the opposing ship, while the on the ground will be dealing with the encounter going on. This is just hypothetical. Having forgotten what the encounters look like now, is that an interesting idea? Is that fun for one person to do an entirely different, game while their players are not? I don't know. That we'll have to see. I really enjoy vehicles in Pathfinder, but it's kind of clear that they were designed internally. Like, what I mean is it's a self-contained idea. So, encounter mode vehicles were sort of meant to be done vehicle to vehicle, just everyone's got a vehicle, everyone's doing something on it, or, you're not using the vehicle for combat. That's gonna be our challenge here. I'm just gonna say entirely rewrite. Let's get out the checkbox. Here we go. No, not that one. I want the checkbox so I can check things. Okay, entirely rewrite. Okay, naval combat. That's going to be my challenge. The only notes I'm leaving there are entirely rewrite naval combat. It's going to be awful. Likewise, this is our basic ship for the Sea Wyvern, and kind of explaining it. We're gonna do this Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Entirely rewrite. What is it called? Just the Sea Wyvern, right? The Sea Wyvern. Yeah. My goodness, this is going to be a real pain. So I think of all the adventures we've converted so far, this is likely going to be one of the hardest, because we may have to build a system. We may have to build a system to make it work. The weather. All right, Lavinia has chosen the best time of the year to travel. Quite pleasant. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I don't think that we probably don't want to. It literally just says everything's great. Don't worry about the weather. So that's fine. Remove storm rack mentions. Okay, we're not going to be directing Pathfinder 2nd Edition players to a 3rd edition 2005 book. That has no relevance. The voyage. One of the navigators must make a knowledge check to plot the course. Okay. This is weird. Okay, hold on. This normally determines if you arrive on target. You can assume that between the two ships, at least one navigator makes the check. So it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Of greater import are the daily plot piloting checks. So we should make these. Okay. This is just a lot of rewriting so far. Rewrite what is it called now? The voyage. Let's see. As long as the Amido coastline is in sight, it's an easy check. Missing one piloting doesn't mean the day is lost. It doesn't create the next day's check. Okay. This is fine. But I think there should be a penalty to this. And I think maybe the penalty should come in the form of food, which might go back to the mechanics of... Okay. All right. Mechanics of things. Okay. Let's go back here real fast. Food acts as a timekeeper. Okay? So, ergo, more food equals more room for mistakes. Okay. Rewrite the voyage. I want to note getting lost loses time, thus loses food. Ta-da! Okay, so I can do some more math. Ugh. Gotta really make this math tight to make sure that's going to be okay. Once the expedition heads south, it gets harder and harder, yes. Okay, each hour the DC drops by 1. Somebody knows the expedition is lost. Boy, see, this is all very 3.5. Roll dice, roll dice, roll dice. Talk about yourselves. One guy gets up to get a pizza, another guy's cracking open a beer. Roll dice, roll dice. Are we still lost? Yeah, we're still lost, man. Dang, that sucks. Hey, you want another sliced pizza? Hell yeah, get me a beer while you're up. Roll dice, roll dice. Hey guys, we're not lost anymore. I mean, I've had those nights. I'm sure they happen in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We want to limit boring dice rolls for no reason, so that's just going to get a whole rewrite. Alright, the crew must consist of 7 people. That's already accounted for in the vehicle rules. 1 crew member, blah, 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 blah. You should leave the section. Okay. Yes, yes. Leave the selection of who's on the crew up to the players. Tavy. Oh, I got stories about Tavy. Not technically part of the ship crew. Got it, got it. We will be meeting all of these very interesting little NPCs as we take a little mystery kind of tour through things. I don't think we really need to, I mean, minor, what page is this already? I've already forgotten. 22. Oh, I've jumped between, let's boop. Page 21 is rewrite the voyage. There we go. These are, I feel bad. You guys are just getting the notes I'm leaving for myself. Page 20, I think is, yeah, naval combat and all this good shenanigans. All right. I think there was something else I wanted to change here. Yes. In the crew, remove or alter some of the skill mentions. Okay, because I say alter because I'm not sure that I really need to note much of this. Yeah, okay. Whew. We're almost to the actual adventure. Passengers, anyone non-member of the crew is a passenger. Blah, 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 blah. Statistics for passenger become relevant. 23rd passenger is Rowan Kalani, a stowaway. Okay. Page 22. Rewrite the, not rewire, rewrite passengers, skills, and sort of NPC statistics. Okay. And of course, we want Rowan's skill checks to discover her early. She will make herself known. I did have a potential coup de grace. Here we go. Search check to find evidence that she's on board. All right. Okay, here we go. This is where it's going to be interesting. This is exactly what I was saying. If you're not interested in tracking provisions, it's easy enough to ignore, as long as you don't take a major sidetrack or spend lots of extra time at Tamakuan. If you want to add a level of realism to this adventure, I'm absolutely keeping this upfront paragraph, because if I'm a GM, people who have played with me know I kind of like the realism and punishing, not thinking about those sorts of things. Depending on my group, I would say, guys, you want to hand wave a lot of the provisions and stuff. Yep, okay, great. But I do tend to like this sort of stuff. If you add a level of realism, this is what people eat. They eat a unit of provisions each day. Good, we've abstracted it. Excellent. Consists of 2,000 units. Cool. 10 tons consists of 2,000 units. Good. I don't have to change that. That's excellent. I don't think I have to change any of that. 10 restocking food at Fairly might be a good idea. Can dedicate some of the remaining cargo to extra provisions. Cool. All of that, I actually don't have to change any of that except for perhaps, was this page 23? This is page 20. Oh, everything's in the way. Oh no, ads. Oh my God, ads are actually getting in the way, so I can't see the page numbers. Probably should go up instead. 26. So this should be 25, 24. This is 23. Whoops. All right. Alrighty. Wait, no. I don't know anymore. Sometimes they have entire. That's 21. Here's 22. Here's 23. Got it. Thank you for showing up with me talking about I can't figure out. All right. I can't figure out what pages are pages. Good. So what was page 22? Rewrite the voyage. Got it. Oh my goodness. My brain should not be doing this stuff, as it's entirely useless. Part 2 is page 21. That's what happened. I see what happened. Okay. There. I know I'm being very anal about this, but I do use these notes when I go back and fix things later. Okay. I don't really have to change stuff with the provisions, but I do want to note provisions, check the math, and also provide drawbacks for half rations. Okay, maybe fatigued. Something like that. Fatigued. Fatigue, perhaps. Okay? Or even dizzy. I'm not going to get into scurvy. I'm not going to design a scurvy disease. Seems unnecessary. All right, event 1. Avner Maravanci, who players may have gotten to meet the Maravanci family in Sasserine. Who, depending on how much they roleplayed in the town, they are just a shitty noble family. Stabs himself as a troublemaker. He arrives a half hour late, doesn't apologize. He's got 2 servants and his steed, Thunderstrike. So he starts being a real jerk. This is an awesome way to kind of establish an antagonist in the adventure, and my players hated Avner. They spent the entire ship journey torturing Avner every single day of the journey. They hated him. Unless players make it, the players Avner stay in Sasserine. Okay, so this is fun. This is introducing all the NPCs that you're going to be meeting on the ship, which you'll see. We've gone through their pictures. Father Ferris, not actually Father Ferris. Amela. We've got Avner here, real jerk. Scald. Oh no. Here's Rowan, of course, now back, all beaten from her time Earl, her time with the thieves and in First Adventure. Earl Forel, or as our druid, and here to see the new things. And Lyrith Velderose, they just call her the Tomboy Warrior. Everyone has a little, small role to play, or in a certain sense. I guess I can talk about that now. Let's go up to that real quick. All right, so essentially, these guys are going to be our role-play mouthpieces for the adventure. Amela acts as the captain, but since we are aiming for one of the players to get that role, they're going to serve as the first mate, or as the GM. That's your way of telling the players about ship things that they, as a player, would not know, but their character would know. You can say, you gotta do the... I don't know anything about ships. You have to adjust the mainsail and bring her to port. Yeah. Father Ferris is going to be something of a red herring. He's hiring himself out as a mule for sinister folk. He is not actually a cleric. His real name is Conrad. He's a criminal. I believe he's working with the Scarlet Brotherhood. Look at that later. Avner just acts as a real piece of shit, but you need him because he's paying for this. Scald is absolutely our red herring. It literally says it serves as a red herring. Things start going weird, and the guy who doesn't talk, keeps to himself, and is very strange, is our first suspect. Earl is here to discover and learn about the Isle of Dread. He kind of talks people into going to the ruins, the dungeon. Lyrith just acts as, since it's 3.5, a hireling more than anything, if your players are kind of weak on the fighting end of things. We might still keep her around. Rowan's our trader, and Tavy, for me, was a role-playing piece. I believe he gets kidnapped in Here There Be Monsters. My players slowly turned him into a rogue in the party, so he became super cool. We have fun image of Tavy later. Not fun, it's just we just have an image of Tavy. I want to see real fast. Yes, here is Conrad. Recently hired to serve as a mule for Sinister Man whose name he doesn't know. He's returned sealed box to a shrine of Erroneous in Fort Blackwell. Okay, so his is not too actually relevant to the story. I didn't know if he was Scarlet Brotherhood or not. Cool. Yeah. But he gets us to another point in the adventure, so we could say like, hey, guys, I really want to. Can we stop off here so I can deliver this box? And shenanigans ensue. Cool. Okay. That's... Yeah. Whoa. Oh, let's get past. Yes. So, we get to meet a bunch of NPCs here. And they're all talking about each other, blah, 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 blah. So, perfect introduction to everybody here. In the end, it's up to the players to how to handle it. Make a diplomacy check. That's what we really need out of this. As the converters, what we really need is... we have to convert a diplomacy check. That's it. That's all. Still page 13... page 23, sorry. Yeah, page 23. Okay. Convert diplomacy check. It looks like that was a very difficult one. So I'm going to say... let's say... hard to very hard level 5 DC, which again, if I haven't shown these off enough, something like that would be a hard check would be 22, a very hard check would be 25. At level 5, if you are fully invested in it, you've got expert plus 9 is expert plus 4 for having high charisma. It's 13. That's still not exactly a gimme. A hard check, you need to roll a 9. For a very hard check, you need to roll a 12. So, yeah, this is to talk. What's the benefit? Okay, so with a 30 diplomacy check, you convince him to sleep in the forward barracks. I would say there should be, like, the failure for this is that he's just a jerk, which he already is. That's it. We should also rewrite that encounter to have more stakes. Okay? So if you fail, I mean, Avner should just be, like, demanding a room of his own. And maybe even starting a fight over it, so we'll see. Lavinia, once the voyage is underway, Lavinia sends her message via a rowboat piloted by one of her crew. She invites the players, their crew, and Avner over to the Blue Nixie. Avner is very important. She is a noble rubbing shoulders with another noble, one who specifically has paid for this. Looking back, I probably should have roleplayed the fact that Avner was untouchable, in a way, because my players ruined this guy's life. Blah, blah, blah. Fun. This is a very, very fun roleplay night. The two ships close. A line is thrown between the two. A pulley is attached. And the net seat is hoisted, allowing for a safe crossing between the two ships, which is cool. An opportunity for each character to interact with their crew, Lavinia and the Jade Ravens, because they are still around. +2 on diplomacy checks. Sure. Potential romances. Interesting. I don't see the need to change this at all. Any connection to the players to help them. Okay, help them. Yeah, this is just a fun role-playing encounter. I say that, and here we go. During the dinner, Rowan has been busy using disguise self and invisibility to move undetected among the sea weapons. I think... let me see here. I do believe that our Rowan Kalani still had access to both of those spells. So let's see here. Rowan Kalani. Her spells were invisibility. Good. I might just relimit that. She's level 4 in this. Do we need to change her? We might. We may not. I don't know. Anyway. Whoa. I don't want that. I don't want these. I don't need that. Good. Okay. Yeah, what page is this? This is page 23. Thank you, Avner, for being the way. 24. No. Yeah, 24. Okay. Page 24. Take a look at Rowan's abilities, spells, once more, just to make sure what she can or cannot do. And if we have to level her up a little bit. Not sure. Okay. She positions her pickled method on the upper deck inside a coil of rope where it remains hidden. Cuts near the way through the ropes, suspending the net, chair, and pulley. Okay. The first player gets a chance. Oh, yeah. We got to do a spot check. We can just make that a hazard. That's an easy hazard. Turn the pulley trap into an easy hazard. Okay. Easy. It's a simple hazard. Not complex or anything like that. Easy, simple hazard. No damage. Okay, now. The round after this occurs, she casts Open Close in the pickled method from her vantage point near the dock, opening it up and releasing the cranky occupant. Okay, cool. Water method. What level is a water method? Because let's take a look here. Water method. Yeah, level 1 against a group of level 5s is very silly. So we should change with that. I mean, just a method in a jar, it's been done. That needs to change. Even making it elite is just, like, laughable. So, what if... Okay, this is a fun idea. I'm going to go and do something strange. A swarm of water methods. She unleashes this we have methods in a jar, I think, in Pathfinder 2E, or at least in Pathfinder 1. Boom. It's an extra-dimensional space. She opens it up, or breaks it, or something like that, and a swarm of methods come out. And we can make either a swarm template, take the methods and apply it to a swarm, make that monster, or even a troop. But methods being, not chaotic, I guess, but methods being what they are, maybe just a swarm is more interesting. So what page is that? They're on, adjust her plan. I'm going to put open close here in parentheses. Okay. Page 25. Make a swarm of methods? Question mark? Because that seems way more interesting and way more threatening to the players than a singular method. Which I don't think the goal is to be deadly. 100%. I definitely recall running this adventure, and it was like, a method came out, and one of my players was like, oh god, I just kill it. And then they just went back to doing things. And they never considered that there was somebody trying to sabotage stuff. A swarm of methods popping out is much more interesting to me. Cool. Yeah, that's what I'd like to do with that. Father Ferris's illness. He's got a mission. In return for a fairly convincing disguise as Father Ferris the priest, including an imbue with spell to give him the ability to cast a few spells. Interesting. We've got... Yeah, player side, we have a thing to do that. Imbue with spell-like ability. We don't have that. So, maybe another thing. Okay. Father Ferris. Spellcasting? I'm just going to kind of put a little question mark there. Like, what are we going to do with that? I don't know. Okay. In a method to escape the assassinating law, he agreed to do a favor for a shady smuggler, asking him to deliver a shrine. Okay, I want to know what this is. Oh, I do know what this is. I remember now because it was so much fun. Both the smuggler and the Shrine of Erroneous in Fort Blackwell are members of a sinister cult known as the Wizards of the Hopping Prophet, a cabal of Salati-worshipping bigots. Whoa, just tossing bigots out there. To infest the material plane with chaos in the form of their beloved outsiders. So, these are slotty supremacists. Oh boy. This is fun. So, if you do not know slods, they are giant extra-dimensional frog-looking people. I'm gonna get like immediately Google's gonna say like that's not right. Slod. Oh no, okay. Here are the slod, and I don't... Yeah, they look frog-like. They went really frog-like, it looks like in 5th edition. And they inject their eggs into somebody, much like the xenomorphs from Alien, and then they burst out and they kill some people. And that's how they propagate their species. I loved sloths. I never got to play with them enough because they're actually quite high level from what I recall. Let's see, 3rd edition sloths. Do they have their CRs? No. No. 5e? Do they? No. 4e? No. Yeah, let's just see. I do recall them being very powerful. Let's see, Slod 3.5. Oh, I know that the death sloths were at least quite powerful. Shogwin, no. Salamanders, no. Satyrs, no. Sea cats, wait, what? No, the alphabetical order, we've already passed them. What? Alright. Maybe this very unofficial. CR7 for red. Red, blue, black. Bunches of them. That's not going to be super helpful. Anyway, sloths are awesome. So his package, his real package is essentially, here we go. When the players visit Fort Blackwell, Conrad makes his delivery and agrees to priest's invitation to stay the night. So that's later on, encounter A, we're visiting Fort Blackwell. And during which he is impregnated with a red slod egg as thanks for helping the cult. Cool! They don't care what happens, only that it emerges in the world to spread chaos. Awesome. This also does mean I'm excited to do this, to convert over a slod into Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Okay. 6 days later, Father Ferris falls desperately ill. Okay, change the illness. This is, again, same. Same. Okay. Change rules for Father Ferris Conrad's illness. -10 to all stats. What? Okay. I mean, that's obviously just a 3.5 thing. We'll probably make that like a doomed. I don't know. We haven't made the slods yet, so his skin flushes. He can't keep down food and water. He grows delirious, moaning, blah, 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 blah. Remove disease spell. Cure some of the infestation. I think we still have that, right? We still have that. Remove disease. Yeah, we still have that. Cool. I feel like one cleric solves this problem, but that's fine. So we don't have to really do that. But a DC 15, cool. We'll change that to a medicine. Okay, change medicine to a, or change heal to a medicine check. Probably just keep it on level. On level of the slod. So whatever's the level of the slod that we make, we're going to keep that DC there to figure it out. Allows its removal and destruction. Yeah. Likewise, make a very hard medicine check to remove it, potentially. And the after effects of damage to Father Ferris. Cool. That is what an exciting. I gotta say, this is actually quite exciting. If they don't learn of his condition, or if they fail to remove the egg, his body rips apart, and out comes a fully formed blue slod. Cool. Let's look up blue slod so we can kind of start converting in our minds. Creature code. It's not what I want. Blue slod. CR8. Oh my god. Yeah, this would be an awesome, severe encounter for players. I love slods. Yeah. So hitting people, it's injecting them with their slod fever. Probably don't need to have the summon slod ability. Sloddy. Cool. We'll make new rules for the disease. Yep. Oh, that is exciting. That is very exciting for me. Create a blue slod. And then here's me being cheeky. Potentially make more slotty. BF2. All right. because I love the idea that, you know, when I read an AP, I like when they put in, like, here's a new creature family, and, you know, here's the one you'll see in the adventure, and here's a bunch of others at different levels so you can use them. That's ambitious for a conversion to do, and it's also ambitious to think that a lot of people adopt this and then use it in their own home games. Like, the reality of doing conversion is the RPG scene is already incredibly, like, small and niche, and the scene of people wanting to play old converted adventures is even smaller, especially when you're relying on, you know, a designer or a converter who is not a professional, like myself. So you have to kind of, like, either really know that person, know what they're talking about, or just sort of know the system well enough yourself that you're going to convert things that you see are wrong. That's me hyping myself up. I'm real good, guys. I don't know. Trust me. Just take my word for it. Okay. So we've got the slot. It wastes no time trying to figure out where it's been born into, and trying to eat anybody. Okay. Awesome. It's a dangerous foe for 5th level characters. You should pull no punches in the fight. I love 3.5. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we don't have to change too much here. We should put an experience reward in there, yeah. Okay. Include a bonus XP section for saving his life. Oh, man. I'm going to put this. Make this a severe 5 encounter. All right, I want that. I mean, like, what would that look like here, real fast? Whoa. What? So a severe 5. I'm pretty sure 120. We could potentially. We could potentially keep it at level 8. I'm gonna put another question mark there. This would be a level 8 creature. Very deadly. And a big reason for why it's very deadly is, I think, Master comes online for Marshals. Master weapon proficiency comes online for Marshals around 7. Is that right? Hold on. Fighter, Pathfinder. Well, Fighter's not a good example. Ranger is going to be a good one. I play spellcasters, by the way. Mostly spellcasters. And if Tagala is still here, he only sees me play a fighter. But, right. Let me see. Skill increase. Weapon specialization. So I believe, yes. Weapon 7, yes. Which you are expert? No. When does, here we go. Oh, no, level 5. Okay. 8 still feels... I feel like that's a point that gets kind of tricky. We'll see. I'll take a look at the math. And if it turns out that just doing a level 7 moderate, you know, is better, I do really like it that they very much say it here. It's a dangerous foe, but if they allowed it to happen, punish them. I mean, this is essentially punishment. Harloon is great. I love so I've talked about Harloon on the stream. I love Harloon. I am, at my core, somebody that loves spellcasters. And Harloon was me being like, you know what, I'm going to look at fighters. And then immediately was like, oh my god, fighters are so strong. Oh my god. Oh god. And I made him purposefully, like, not optimal. You know, where most of his points are in wisdom, and his dedication is Horizon Walker, which is arguably maybe one of the worst dedications. And, you know, his weapon is just a lance from non-mounted horseback. But he's just been very effective, and I love playing him. I do like playing spellcasters more, because my options suddenly become like, I can do anything. And if anyone plays with my Android Honesty, you can see why I really like him. All right, I'm likely going to be stopping here. You can see these events take place somewhat out of order. We haven't gotten into the actual voyage. Here we go, part 3 of the voyage south. But I will say, last event here that we'll pick up with on the next stream which I'm going to talk about that. We'll see how the next stream is essentially Rowan is trying to mess with the players, get them killed, bunches of little things. I think it's weird. Her ways of doing things are seductions and accidents. I think we could probably make her more deadly. They have leveled her up here, which is good, so we might do the same thing. Okay, anyway. To talk about stream going forward, I did get a new job. My hours have changed. But importantly, the schools in Japan, if dad has a day off during the week, cannot send his son to, very specific, a parent can't send their child to a nursery school if they have a day off during the week. You would need to hire a private school to do that, which I guess makes sense. And this streaming time, is my day off and also a weekday for me. So I will be having my son when I typically stream. And given that I tried streaming with him one time before, it didn't work out so well. So either next week I'm going to try streaming with him again, see how that goes, or I will just push things back and I will stream at a different time because I do have my mornings free. Actually, my workday would be starting about now. And it is 12:30 in the afternoon in Japan, so that's a very late start. So I could potentially be streaming in the mornings during the week once my son has gone off to school. So that said, the next week may be kind of weird. I do want to do an adventure stream, but I will be working this week during my typical adventure stream time. So what I might do is just find some time. I'm going to maybe even talk about the play-by-post server a little bit in my next video. We'll see. Because I did enjoy talking about the Sorrow Wraith's adventure path. And maybe that'll become a sort of a thing. If I can't stream, I'll do a quickie video and talk about other Pathfinder material. Okay, so thank you. I am going to have some lunch before my son gets here, and then I just can't. Thank you so much. And Tagala, I'll see you around. I'm sure that Quest for Frozen Flame is going to be starting up again soon. And Descriptivist, nice to see you, and see you later. So, everybody, have a very good time. And one more time, in case people are looking for it. Let me copy that link one more time for the drive so people can check out what we're doing. All right, everybody, have a good one, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.